Hello again, everyone. My name is David Bastel, alongside OREA President Sean Morrison, and this is the Real Estate Edition podcast. Sean, it's our end-of-year show with OREA CEO Tim Hudak.
Yeah, hard to believe we're at the end of the year. We're going to be discussing with Tim the state of the market over COVID-19, the weight of the decisions that had to be made around the board table, and what memories he's had of 2020 so far. We're also going to ask him if he could go back in time and tell his January self something. What would that be?
And before we get to that interview, Sean, you may have heard that Ontario realtors can now form personal real estate corporations, which can provide you with tax-saving benefits, the ability to income split with family members, and can help with saving more money for retirement. OREA has created a number of resources that can help you decide if forming a PREC is right for you and how to take the first steps towards incorporating. To find OREA's guide to PRECs, a frequently asked questions document, and a webinar featuring tax and legal experts, visit orea.com/PRECs today. And stay tuned to the end of this podcast for more updates about a few other exciting offers and upcoming events for OREA members. Now, here's our chat with Tim Hudak.
You're listening to this month's episode of The Real Estate Edition with host Dave Bastel and OREA President Sean Morrison.
Tim, I'm sure a lot of our listeners already know your role with OREA, but to refresh some of the memories out there that are, just questioning and so forth and exactly wanting to know a little bit more about your working experience with the company for the past couple of years, maybe give us a little bit of a refresher, sir.
Yeah, I officially started as CEO 4 years ago last week. It was December 1 when I started my job. As CEO, working hard for Ontario's almost 80,000 realtors. Time has flown by, Dave and Sean. Look, I'm thrilled to be on the podcast. Sean, thanks for having me on for this Christmas time or just before Christmas podcast, because it's a time of reflection, right? So, what do I think about it? I feel fantastic with these 4 years. I'm thrilled to work with some extraordinarily talented and dedicated individuals in Sean and our board of directors. I would say, Dave, that there is no profession, doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, you name it, no profession more involved with giving back to their community and rolling up their sleeves and getting work done than Ontario realtors. So it's awesome to work with folks around the table every day that are volunteering to make the province a better place. And second, I think the OREA team has really come together strong. We've had significant wins around advocacy, around increasing home ownership. We fought for affordable homes for folks. We're delivering new services for people and up the quality in others to develop things like leadership skills in our realtors and to make sure the backbone of real estate exchanges, our standard forums, are leaders in Canada. So I'm feeling really good about these past 4 years, and it's a nice way to celebrate that being on Sean's podcast.
So Tim, I know, as you said, it's a time for reflection. So thinking back to when you started and now, what do you think is different for you personally from when you started?
I'm older. Look at me. You've aged me. Well, you can't. It's a podcast. I haven't aged a day. It's certainly two things I'd say. Number one, it's an increasing comfort level with the issues. I never pretended to know everything about real estate. Certainly, I had a lot of very positive relationships with OREA. And it was really blessed to have a lot of really strong realtor advocates that I work with in my life in politics. So I was 21 years a representative provincially for Niagara. I was actually the consumer minister that brought in REBA, the Real Estate Business Brokers Act, back in 2002, my God. Also the leader of the official opposition, PC leader, and home ownership was always a big feature. So I knew the government files well. But I'd only purchased 2 houses in my lifetime, right? And I know that some people think that makes them experts, far from it. So, Sean, working with leaders like yourselves that know the industry inside and out, that have given back to the profession, learning more about the day-to-day operations, what motivates realtors, what they need, what brokerages need to help more people find a great place to call home. That's been the biggest growth experience, and it's just been a real thrill to be part of that.
Tim, I think a big theme, and it's going to be a big theme of this podcast as well, for a lot of realtors too, is learning how to adapt to the ever-changing real estate environment. And it wasn't just realtors, it was society, just because of everything that happened with COVID-19, and it continues to this day. As a CEO of a provincial association, what's your take on the importance of being resilient during a time like COVID-19?
Yeah, well, look, I think any time you got to adapt, or you fade off the stage, or you die. even more so when it came to COVID-19. Sir Winston Churchill had that expression to never let a good crisis go to waste. So, working with Sean, the board of directors, we said our members are uncertain. We've never faced anything like this before. They need our support from anywhere from having their back, supporting their mental health, giving them tools to cope in the COVID crisis, giving them guidance around the best practices. I'm really proud, I know Sean is as well, that realtors and brokerages and brands put the health and safety of Ontarians ahead of business. We counsel people to put aside any business till after the pandemic, eased up. People were using electronic tools. The adaptation's been incredible. I would say that there's probably no more competitive business out there than real estate. I thought politics was competitive. Game of knives. Real estate, even more competitive. And if you don't adapt, you're not resilient, you quickly get left behind. And we use that kind of character, that kind of flexibility, that kind of drive to always improve yourselves at OREA this year, when we delivered the We Have Your Back program to support our realtors and the people they look out for every day, their clients, with our We Have Your Back COVID relief program. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, as am I, Tim. And I know that leading during a time like this comes with its own specific set of challenges. I think we both experienced that a lot this year. But I guess the question I have for you would be, let's talk about some of your biggest hurdles that you faced this year. What were your biggest successes and failures? And if you could go back in time to the beginning of the year, back into speak with your January self, what advice would you give them now that you're nearing the end of the year?
You know what? That's a great question. And I guess the biggest surprise is how long this has lasted. And, as we talk here in the second week of December, it's going to last much longer. But Sean, answer your question. If I went back and told, February, March, Tim, that, I don't know if that would be helpful, because what we did was we said, oh my God, this crisis has hit us. We need to respond for our members. So let's move fast and let's move smart. And we brought about that program. I think if we had known it was going to be longer lasting, more time, we might not have been so quick off the pull. I guess I would have given advice to say, have faith in your team, have faith in your instincts and the instincts of your board of directors. Because in time of unprecedented change, when there is no playbook, you really rely on your gut, the instinct you develop from facing other crises of different natures in the past. And, to think that we would lay out programs like LifeWorks to assist realtors with mental health, physical health, social health, that we would put out all of the guidance we did about how to conduct open houses during a pandemic, or to shut them down at the worst times, how to do a safe, scheduled showing, how to work with other professions that didn't get what we got, was an essential services designation. All of that came about really out of gut instinct and a desire to help our members. So I worry if I had gone back in time, I would have said, you got lots of time to fix this. I'm glad we moved quickly, and it really paid dividends for our members and the people that they fight for.
No, I completely agree with you, Tim. And, I know I have through this, and I'm sure you have felt the weight of some of the decisions that you made. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Anytime you take a gamble, you think, what if we're wrong? And certainly, Sean, you're still a very young fella, but you have carried a tremendous amount of weight. Good thing you're the former professional rugby player, used to having broad shoulders and carrying heavy weights across the goal line, or whatever the heck you call it in rugby when you threw the stone down, or whatever it was. A big weight, I think you'd feel this, Sean, for your leadership at Coldwell Banker as well, is helping out your team, because we intuitively, if you're in the real estate business, and my background too, you respond to being face to face with somebody, looking them in the eye, watching their body language, seeing how they react to you. And when you become dislocated from that, you lose that. So you worry about people, you don't have that natural connection you used to. And then probably every listener to the President's podcast here has had some significant pressure in their own lives, whether it's kids at home from school, a loved one they couldn't see, in the hospital. Maybe somebody lost their job or worried about not being able to put the lights on in their small business. So there was a huge burden, I think, on everybody. COVID was bad enough, but the enormous weight on your back from just the dark cloud of it all and the side effects. Like I lost my dad this summer. It was awful in August. One of our hard workers, Luigi Faber, lost his mom during the worst of COVID. They can only have like 10 people go to the funeral, right? Can you imagine that, saying goodbye and you can't to a loved one like that? So that was a heavy weight of all of this too. And I know, Sean, you've gone through your own loss in your own family as well. So how do you deal with it? I just think that you try to power through. You do try to reach out. You try to maintain as much human contact as at all possible. And I think you also have to have the belief that this too will pass, that there are better days ahead, and you focus on that.
You're absolutely right, Tim. It's, I know I've lost sleep through this pandemic, and it sounds cliche, but you do carry those 80,000 realtors into the decision rooms that you go into to make these types of choices, and it can weigh very tremendously on you. Thankfully, I had the support of the OREA staff behind me as well. They're just absolutely amazing, and I know they give you a lot of support and help as well. Now, as far as the year, again, taking stock, what did you learn from the decisions that you made during COVID-19? How has it changed how you approach things?
No doubt it reinforces my view that if you get to a certain leadership position like you are, Sean, and I have the honor of being that, you got there because of how you combine your experience with your gut instinct. So your gut is usually going to be right. Number two, you have to have trusted advisors around you, like my senior staff, my board of directors, who also have their own experience and good instincts to bounce it off them. And then when you find alignment to go for it. Third, the importance of values that you try to inspire in your team. I've encouraged the team at OREA to be bold, to be strong communicators, to be leaders, not followers, and to think each and every day about the members, the 80,000 realtors out there that pay the bills that they work hard for, and to try to put yourself in their shoes, trying to help out people during a pandemic find a place to live or to sell a property. So I guess it reinforced in me some core values, and probably even more so to go with gut instinct, to learn to trust the team around you, and to give them more rope when you're confident they've got the right set of experience and values and drives themselves.
As far as personally speaking, Tim, I know you've kind of touched on it a little bit with handling a large group of realtors across the province, but personally dealing with the uncertainty, has that been trying for you, and how have you handled that on a personal level?
Hop on my Peloton and ride. I think everybody needs a bit of an escape, right? There's no denying it.
Yes.
And you can whistle and hum Bobby McFerrin and say, "Don't worry, be happy," for anybody who's 45 and up. But it does weigh on you. Sean talked earlier, very eloquently about the weight and carrying all those realtors on your back when you go into the room and have to make a tough call. And so with my staff, and I think. Everybody has to have a bit of a release to find a way just to clear the mind, listen to music, go for a walk, go for hikes. I love being outdoors. That was a way to help, I think, ease some of the fog they can get around you.
Yep.
And then you see a bit more clear-headed after that.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I do that myself. A nice brisk walk sometimes will clear your head, quicker than hours of rest. So, that's good to hear that you have that outlet, because that's important. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about the market, because I'm hearing from a lot of my realtor colleagues that one of the really surprisingly parts of this year was that the residential real estate market was really strong in some areas. What do you think caused that booming in those areas?
Yeah, I think, one thing obviously is there was pent-up demand because the market was hot at the beginning of 2020. And then basically ground to a halt at the depths of the pandemic. So number one, there was that factor, but you're right, Sean, the sheer volume and interest and multiple offers, right across the province shows it was more than that. One abiding theme about this whole COVID pandemic has been the importance of home, we've always known that, and the great value of home ownership, how that drives us. But even more so during COVID, it was a place of comfort, and security, a place to be close with family, a place to be safe. And I think that drove an even greater interest in people to have a place of their own. It was such a compelling theme and escape from all the madness outside. And then I think because people were in enclosed spaces for a long period of time, they started looking for more space. So that's why when we did, OREA did the surveys of consumers in the marketplace and the perceptions of COVID, we saw some trends that said, larger homes, more space inside, maybe for a home office or for a grandma to move in, a backyard to kick the soccer ball around with your daughter, all of that. And the other trend I think we're seeing too is that people that were going to make decisions maybe to live in quieter areas, rural areas, waterfront areas, have accelerated those decisions. Or perhaps people who would commonly do international travel decided to get a place along the lake, so to speak. So we have seen a greater interest in rural and waterfront properties than probably anybody anticipated a year ago.
No, and I know, Tim, you alluded to some of the research that we've done through Nanos Research. When you're thinking about that, was there anything that came up that really surprised you as part of that research? I know a lot of it showed our trend lines throughout the year, but was there anything that when you read it genuinely surprised you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. What they say about hindsight, right? It all makes sense once you see the numbers. And those that are listening to the podcast, it's all available, by the way, on our website, oreacovid19info.com. You can check out these surveys. We're doing monthly soundings on where consumers were as a result of COVID. I think the notion that people who enjoy urban areas, I think, will continue to enjoy urban areas. There was certainly a flight from large urban areas after 9/11, and that kind of settled down. I think ultimately people who want to be in urban areas for the networking, for the access to amenities, whether it's shopping, whether it's dinners, whether it's shows, I think that will still be there. Just because they can work from home doesn't mean they want to escape the city. So if you're always an urban person, I think you're likely to stay there. If you had always craved a bit more space or getting back to the country, then I think this accelerated your decision.
We will be back after this short break.
Join the OREA Realtor research community to have your say when it comes to the services OREA provides, the recommendations we make to the government, and the strategic priorities of the association. You'll receive exclusive content and be entered into monthly draws every time you complete a survey. Visit joinorearesearch.com to sign up and join an exclusive community of realtors making a difference. joinorearesearch.com.
We're in conversation with Tim Hudak. He's the CEO of OREA. He joins us here on the Real Estate Edition podcast. We talked about the Nanos research, and we do encourage our listeners to check that podcast back and take a look on the site too, because there's some fabulous information. And you touched on it there, Tim, with one of the questions and one of the answers we just talked about. Suburban rural living, it almost seems more appealing now to a lot of the people here in Ontario. Do you think this trend actually will continue once the pandemic is finished? And we're hoping this pandemic finishes a lot sooner than later.
So, yeah, but at a slower pace. I think This gives more choices to people. So I'll give you an example. Say that there's a couple and they want to live in the country, but one of the spouses needed to work in an urban area. Now she can actually work from home or commute a lot less. So I think it puts more choices on the table for those who are prone to live in suburban and in rural areas. One of the things that Sean and our GR chair, Mike Stalls, and my team have lobbied on is investments in broadband. I mean, that's modern infrastructure.
Yep.
I know the top question that real estate agents are getting in small towns and waterfront properties is how's the internet service? And the government in this recent budget just came through, listened to us with significant investments in that broadband. So I think that I think we see more of a separating out between those that like the urban, those that like suburban and rural. They have more choices now with work from home. And because of realtor lobbying, they're going to have a greater ability to do so with better investments in broadband.
Okay, continuing along with that, we've seen the condo market in bigger cities like Toronto, like Mississauga, having a little bit of struggles. Do you see that on the rebound anytime soon?
I think that'll be ongoing. And Sean, certainly with his business experience, being the guy that does this each and every day, would probably have a greater perspective than I would. I know that when we've had our commercial realtors and the leaders of the large commercial brands, they're not sure where the commercial sector is heading. And there's some suggestion that there might be some of the commercial properties put into residential. So that will increase the supply in the marketplace. So I think, when I talk to realtors across province, I'll throw it back to Sean, that the weakest part of the market right now does tend to be on the condo side in urban areas. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. At the moment, I think it's too early to speculate long term what that condo market looks like. I mean, certainly now, as people have been sequestered in their condos for the last 8 or 9 months, that realistically, there is that thought to greener pastures. Maybe I want, if I can work remotely, maybe I want to have a backyard that I can go out into. Maybe the idea of having the home office at home and having the space for that is what's driving it at the time. But as you alluded to earlier, Tim, it's the convenience of living downtown for a lot of people. It's the convenience of being close to work that has driven the condo market over the years. So I think it's a little too early to tell. I think we have to see what happens in the commercial area and in office, as people return to offices to really tell that tale.
You guys touched on it a little bit. Let's get into it right now. What are we seeing in the commercial real estate market world? Do you think this trend will continue? And how do you view this at this time, Tim?
Well, I'll just tell you what we do. I mean, a big part of our job is on the advocacy side. We regularly meet with premier ministers and MPPs. And recently, we had the CEOs, presidents from large companies like Cushman & Wakefield, CBRE, Avison Young and Oxford and others. And their point of view was, and Sean was part of that, of course, as president, he can back me up on this. Like Sean said about condos, but too early to tell. Yeah. So will work from home mean less demand on office space? Or will a desire to have a bit more space and not be all crammed into a bunch of cubicles push the other way to say that offices will actually want more square footage for employees? Will we end up with a hybrid model where you're working sometimes at the office, sometime at home? So they say it's probably too early to tell which of those directions will be the most powerful. They do have a view, though, that commercial use will likely change, that you'll probably see less retail. You'll probably see less around the hospitality and moving into other areas. And government's job will be necessary to help facilitate those transitions, not throw up all kinds of red tape and roadblocks and outdated rules, add a natural transition of who uses that commercial property and how. And as Sean rightly said, too, government has a big role here to help restore confidence to head back to the office, confidence to take your wife out for dinner again, confidence to invest and create jobs. And OREA is going to be right there at the table with a plan to help them do that. We have something called the Framework for Reopening the Province, a lot of really good ideas on how we can get people back onto payrolls and help the small businesses that have been impacted to have confidence to put the lights on again and open up the doors.
Now, Tim, that's actually a good segue into talking about the recovery plan as a whole. What do you think are the top 3 things that the government should be focusing on right now as we turn an eye to recovery?
Yeah, so the government will be having their next budget in April. And I do believe, Sean, you're right, they'll be turning their eyes to recovery. Right now, they're in the protect phase. So the top 3 in our framework that I would recommend for government, number 1 is a holiday on the land transfer tax. We suggest 6 months for middle-class homes. And the reason we say this is, look, I mean, I think all the listeners will know this. There is no purchase anybody ever makes that has a bigger impact on the local economy than buying a home, right? I mean, you're talking about new furniture, new appliances, renovations, services for moving across the board. Our National Association, CREA, I think, estimates that was at $84,000 per home is spin-off spending on the economy. So if you really want the jumper cables on the engine of the economy, supporting real estate transactions is the way to get the economy revved up again. This will also bring in more supply to the marketplace because it's been shown that the land transfer tax is actually a barrier to people, say, empty nesters downsizing, because they say, well, I got to pay a tax to move, so I'll just stay put. Number 2 on that list, Sean, we've suggested a renovation tax credit. People, well, Debbie and I are like this. You and Tammy may be the same way, right? You spend so much time in your house under the pandemic, you got a long list of what you like and what you don't like, what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, my renovation list got a lot longer.
I can barely put a light bulb in the right way, right? So, I mean, I'm not going to do anything about that list. No matter how hard I try, I'll probably injure myself. So the a renovation tax credit was a successful policy the last time we had a slowdown, which again used real estate as an engine in the home renovation tax credit. So let's do that again. And our realtors that lobby the MPPs went to work on this. So we actually got that in the budget for seniors. So it's a really good start. So you can stay longer in their home, or if mom or dad are going to move in with you, they can make renovations. They get a tax credit on your expenditure. So that was in the budget. Fantastic. And the number 3 one, something called opportunity zones. This is a policy where, believe it or not, Republicans and Democrats actually agree on it in the United States. Working in UK, if there's an area, say it's a brownfield in an urban core, or maybe a neighborhood that has high crime but low opportunities, or a northern or rural community where the major employer is shuttered and moved away, the government can lower taxes, speed up approval processes, cut red tape to reward local employers to expand and new ones to come in. So there's 3 that we think can have a major impact on getting our Ontario economy back on track.
Tim, let's wrap up this podcast. And again, thank you for spending some time with us here on the Real Estate Edition podcast. A brighter note, maybe some of the good memories of 2020 for yourself. What are some of the things that you kind of appreciate more than maybe you did in the past?
Yeah, I mean, number one, you get closer to family, right? You get closer, more appreciative of family. I'm blessed to have an awesome wife in Debbie, and 2 amazing daughters in Miller and Maitland, or in elementary school. And spending more time with them has been a real benefit. I imagine being locked in with me, I get on their nerves for once in a while, but overall for Dad, it's been pretty good, really good actually. And number 2 is triumphs at work. I mean, I had the honor of working with an incredible president in the host, Sean Morrison. And it's amazing to see how Sean has led through this crisis. I don't think when he became president back at the end of February, he had any idea what was coming down the pipe. And boy, you talk about the right leader at the right place at the right time. What Sean has done, I think, has been a leader in Canada and standing up for professionalism, high real estate standards. The realtors in this province, as a result, have looked out for the community and helped the province fight this pandemic. And Sean has done an amazing job in communicating that, having influence on public policy, and making sure that realtors continue to be leaders in their community with the highest levels of focus on public health, safety, and professionalism. And the third thing I'll put, because I always like to talk in 3s, it was awful. My dad died. That was the worst thing of this past year. But, when you go through a transition in grieving, now celebrating what a great dad he was. So my mind moving now to the happy memories and, seeing what I can do for the same thing for my daughters.
I really appreciate those kind words, Tim. And it does really refocus your thoughts when you go through something like this, for sure. A family becomes infinitely more important, and the little things that used to be important to you just don't seem as important anymore.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you taking the time to be on the Real Estate Edition podcast with us here today. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, look, I'll thank you again, Sean and Dave. Good to see you both. Thanks for doing the podcast. And Sean, again, fantastic year. And thank you for your bold leadership. I'll start where I'll end where I started, and that's don't let a good crisis go to waste. Crises, while difficult, give you an opportunity to make long overdue and thorough change for the better. So do that. And as much as all of this seems new to us, unless they're old enough to have lived through the Spanish flu in the 1930s, there's nothing like the fundamentals to get you through. So the importance of teamwork, the importance of reaching out, and the importance of going with your gut instincts, those types of fundamentals will help you survive any crisis and stick to them.
Tim, great talking to you once again. Thanks for joining us here on the Real Estate Edition podcast. That was a great chat with Tim about leading during a pandemic. And speaking of leadership, mark your calendars for OREA's Peak Leadership Summit in January 2021, which is offering professional development for volunteer leaders who want to make a difference in their real estate community. For the first time, the summit will be held virtually and will be open to all OREA members who currently volunteer or are interested in volunteering with their communities. For more information or to register, please visit OREAPeakSummit.com. We're also excited to share that we've extended our offer for our Leadership 200 course, Becoming a Leader. It is now available online for free to all members until June 2021. Visit OREACovid19info.com/relief to sign up today. And before I go, don't forget that 2021 is right around the corner, and that means new and updated standard forms. Stay on top of the coming changes and join the OREA Forms team on December 16th for the New Year New Forms webinar. Visit OREA.com/standard forms to register. Well, that does it for me. On behalf of OREA President Sean Morrison and myself, David Bastel, happy holidays, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again in the new year.
Visit OREA.com/podcast for more information, links, and a full list of our episodes to date. New episodes are out the second Tuesday of every month.